Welcome and thank you everyone for joining us for another Twitter Space. Today is August 23rd, 2022, and this is episode 31 of the ledgerscale Internet of Value Open Forum. Now, ledgerscale Foundation was founded with two goals in mind. One, we want to provide educational services to not only our community, but to the entire digital asset community, and to help scale up the number of brains that understand how distributed ledger technology works. And two, we intend to one day run hardware to provide infrastructural support to the distributed ledger technology networks that we believe are ESG friendly and running a form of decentralized consensus. Now, we host these spaces Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, starting at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. And on Wednesday, we host a focused topic space from 5 to 6 Eastern Standard Time. And if I could just ask if everyone could just give us a follow on Twitter at ledgerscale and turn notifications on so you know when we're going live, as well as retweet the space by hitting the little bubble, the bubble box at the bottom right, and giving it a like as well, because I think Twitter likes that for the algorithm.
Yeah, and appreciate that, Beth. And so basically, we're here to just engage the community. So if you have a question or something you're curious about, please speak up. If you do, just be courteous. But if you're wondering about something, I guarantee you other people are. And well, yeah, welcome to the space. So I know, Death, I don't think you were maybe, I think you were a little sidetracked, but you were at least paying attention on the grants program call.
Yeah, I was listening in for the most part. I think I got there like 5-10 minutes late, and then listened for the majority of it. Yeah.
Boy, they have certainly, because I applied for a derivatives thing in the first wave. They
Well,
have certainly.
yeah, they're making it a lot more difficult. There's a lot more things for them.
Oh yeah, I was really kind of. They kept going, and I was like, oh wow, gosh, that's a lot more. I mean, yeah, they've got a. They said what 3-4 months minimum before money starts flowing if you're actually receive a grant.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was, and they're doing all sorts of.
Yeah, you have to file a lot of papers, and it has to go to people like FinCEN, and they have to do background checks and sanctions checks and things like that.
Well, I doubt they're sending that to FinCEN, but you can do a like I ran background checks on all my tenants. There's services you can just do that on. But yeah, they kept going on, and I was like, wow, man, they really got a pretty good large set of criteria here, or large set of hoops to jump through, I guess. Some of it made sense. Some of it I was sort of wondering. The disappointing thing, and I've run into this before because I don't do code, is it did seem more. It's like, show us your GitHub repo, where's the code, and this kind of thing. And see, I think in there is definitely a bias against, say, I don't know, people like me who I might understand some of this stuff, and I might be able to, like, say, architect a system, but I'm not going to be the developer that builds it. And there's that doesn't, they don't care, right? They want to see the thing built, which I can understand that too from that point of view. That makes sense as well. But I don't know. I feel like your innovation comes from the architect side. Your developers are the Not that they don't innovate also, but they're more on the developer side.
So some of the, I guess, topics that they want to help out with include sustainability, projects by women and non-binary people. I'm not too sure what they meant by HBCU projects, and then general technical projects. You guys know what HBCU means?
I think that's an organization. That was the first time I'd heard that. And oh man, they were definitely pushing the women and non-binary thing. And it's like, well, what if I just happen to be a dude? I don't know. Like, but I think it's cool. I mean, we need more women in the industry. I think it's great. But
Non
it's
does
weird.
non-binary mean
Pushed.
you're neither? Non-binary means you're neither, right? Non-binary? Is that what that means?
Yeah, I think you don't consider yourself either one. Catch that?
HBCU is historically black colleges and universities.
I was just going to say that.
Okay.
Oh, well, that's cool. But there's plenty of like not white folks in this industry. I mean, hell, I think half the people I talk to are not white. At least half of them. I mean, but they're from all over the freaking world. Like, that's the thing. This is a global industry. Like, there's people everywhere, from everywhere. I think it's a kind of a good thing. Brings in, because people come from, if they're coming from different cultural backgrounds, they'll you have a higher degree or a higher probability that maybe someone will approach a problem in a different way than you would, right? And so they'll point out a solution that maybe you had never thought of, but to them it seems obvious because that's just how it's done in their culture, and it's not your culture, so you wouldn't know, right? Like, you wouldn't have thought about it like that. I think it's a good thing, like, certainly. I don't know. They were really pushing on that, though. I thought that was like, if you added up the amount of time they spent talking about that kind of thing versus like the application part and this other stuff, it was a little odd. And outside of the point I just made, I'm not sure that it matters much. To like the like if you're trying to assess the probability of a project, I mean, what does it matter? As long as whoever's doing it is capable and committed, go. Right? Like, but it's good. It was interesting to see what they were. I mean, my
How many
what's
how
that?
many people did you guys see in the Zoom session? I'm wondering.
Personally, I didn't notice. I was looking at the chat, and there was quite a few questions and people chatting. I mean, and they said that they're doing a rolling grant, so like, every, it's not like at the end of the wave is in October, so it's not like they might grant you before October.
And for anyone interested, they are checking the applications right away. So the sooner the better, I think.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Just letting people know that they are reviewing the applications right away.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know one of the judges. Like, he's been around for a long time. I was a little disappointed I didn't get into the first wave, But then again, I didn't tell them too much. And again, I don't have code. There's no code base. It's like I know how to structure the code, but I need somebody else to develop it. I wouldn't trust myself to do it. I would screw something up for sure. But that doesn't mean I can't. Like it's there, the concepts. Yeah, I don't know. They have certainly, the first wave wasn't really that bad. Like I just went on to the same system they're using now, Submitly or something like that. And it was just like filling out a questionnaire. I mean, I was somewhat vague because I didn't want to just give them the idea for free. Have been ripped off before, so kind of learned that lesson. And so I think maybe because of my vagueness, they didn't, in lack of code. And actually, I called the guy I know, and I was like, "Hey, what's up with it?" But they, at least back then, I don't know how they're doing it now. They split the pile of applications up. Like, say there's 100 applications and 5 judges, and they gave each judge 20 things. And he didn't get mine. He was like, "Oh, dude, I wish you had told me earlier, and like I could have gotten your application, right?" But whatever.
So
not
I ended up posting something up top. Oh, no, this is a different topic. So you want to continue? Go ahead, Karma.
No, go for it.
I ended up posting up top that I ended up reading this article earlier today about them finding a bug with one of the pull requests in the ETH merge thingamajiggy going on. I don't know if anybody knows much about it.
What? Say that again? No, I don't actually know anything about it. An ETH merch?
Right. So the thing happening September 15th, I believe.
Yeah.
I saw an article today that they found some bugs with some of the pull requests that they're trying to integrate, and that's sort of causing some issues. So that they're working on the bugs apparently. I posted it up on top in the Jumbotron.
Yeah, for the bridge, but they said it's not supposed to delay anything though, so we'll see. I mean, they are creating a new network. I'm still confused about what exactly is going on.
So this ETH merge or 2.0, if it's not going to lower the gas fees, what's the point of it then? Or what are they saying is the point
I
of it?
think it's setting up the foundation to be able to actually apply those updates. I'm not exactly sure though.
Because I would think that the main concern or the main thing that they would have to address is the gas fees. But if it's not even addressing that, so what's the point of it?
Well, I thought I was listening to an interview with him and he was saying it was going to take like a few months for the gas fees to come down. It was something about like the way it was going to work at the beginning, like wouldn't actually affect gas fees until XYZ happened and then it would, affect the gas fees. I can't remember the details.
Or I was thinking that the merge maybe had something to do with the merge over to the Flare network, but I don't know if it's the same thing though. But it would be nice if we could use Flare, for example, as gas fees to move it around. Is there anyone that have another opinion on that?
I wonder if it's a port thing, that's more of a technical issue. If it's I guess a political economic thing, that could be, it's maybe the miners are trying to push back a little bit and get sort of like a longer window before the fees go down.
All right, so this is what I'm understanding from this. So ETH2 seems to be a collaboration of multiple people having different gateways or different almost like, I guess they're hosting their own, I don't know, what is this, beacon chain? And so they're the ways on the beacon chain. And so this is just one of the execution clients, as one of the people called it in the comments. But so he said, in fact, many people should. There are 3 other execution clients you can run in case getting this isn't fixed. So, in fact, many people should do this because it is dangerous to run a majority client, as you could end up following the wrong chain. So they're like, the actual merge itself is completely and utterly centralized, as it's just a couple people who are starting up this network.
Oh, who's in here that's more technical than me? Somebody that because a port is just a connection to the machine. So you're right. Somebody's got to be running that machine.
What's your question?
Well, I'm just trying to understand what the issue even is. Like if the issue is you've got a machine or some machine operator and the ports aren't connecting, then
No. So what's happening is you basically have 4 different bridges from Ethereum to their new chain, right? And so one of the bridges is not accurately, I guess, communicating with Ethereum, and so there's a problem.
well, you can use another. I mean, that would be like having a federator not accurately communicate between 2 ledgers. Because essentially ETH2 is just a new ledger, right? It's a new network. So I don't know. Are they gonna
Is it a network or is it multiple networks? I'm kind of confused, to be honest, about that part.
I don't know. I got rid of all my Ether as soon as I could. I don't know. It's the whole thing's a mess. There's too many red flags for me, for my liking. And so I don't know. I haven't spent hardly any time looking at it. I would imagine it's one network. It's got to be, right? I mean, it's proof of stake.
You could take like this for like a Hedera hash graph, right? Like each node is technically its own network in the sense of the way that it relays the transactional, like how it has validation of transactions, and then it just submits consensus for the other nodes, and your other nodes just trust that, if you're a trusted node, that was a valid transaction, right? And so, I guess, is it like a series of people hosting their own nodes, and then so in that sense, right, they're hosting the network, which would make it central. But there's only four of these running that are running hosting.
Well, there could be a difference between a bridge and like proof of stake is basically means your voting power on ledger is tied to your how much you have staked. The bridges, I think, would be a different mechanism. And I keep trying to bring up what's his name. He might know. Death. You want to see if you can bring him up because it's not letting me. We don't have too many people speaking.
Oh, Gene! I didn't realize Gene was there. He may not be able to talk.
But Sauce wants to come up, and I've tried to approve him like 3 times, and it just pretends like I did nothing.
Same thing. I approved him twice already. Twitter doesn't.
Anyway, I think the bridge is different than the ledger. Like the bridge operator would be like a federator, an agent, a market maker, a connector, depending on which vernacular you want to use. Bridge, but I think that's got to be different than the actual ledger itself. And if one of 4 bridges are down, I mean, that kind of sucks. But whatever.
Well, in the sense of just starting up the network, the people who are hosting the network are hosting the bridges. That's what it looks like.
Well, I mean, I would call vertical integration. That's likely. It would be better if you had sort of like a flare set situation, right? Like with the FTSO and all of that stuff, and the Oracle and all the what does Flare call them? Agents or federators? I forget. I think they call them agents. But that bridge role,
Yeah, agent. Yeah, we'll call it agent.
I think that methodology is at least designed very well. I mean, I don't know if it's better or worse, but it seems to be designed well.
Or if you're providing information from like the state connector, they would call you an attestation provider.
Yeah, but that's different than somebody who's actually helping move the value. Like if you're moving data, like you're attesting, that's one thing. That's different than moving value. Like, does that make sense? Or
Yeah.
am I wrong?
The
I think
cool part in this sense, though, is that the people who are moving the value, as in the FTSOs, have a much easier capability of acting as an attestation provider also. And so incentive to be both.
Yeah. That's why I wouldn't be surprised if it was the people that were staking on Ethereum. I mean, same principle. If it was people that were staking on Ethereum running the bridges, yeah, I mean, this makes sense. You're already doing half the freaking work, if not more than half. Might as well do the extra little bit.
Yep. Gene, though, thank you for coming up, man. And Lady K, if you want to speak up, please feel free to talk about anything you'd like to talk about. But I could just, if you can talk, Gene, maybe you know better technical-wise about what's going on with the whole Ethereum bug in the bridge.
To be honest with you, I'd have to research it. I'm like on a completely different spectrum with like my homework, but I'm more than willing to. It may take me a couple minutes to really look at it, but the only thing I can really think of bugs is, again, that implementation of like APIs, or even like where the consensus mechanism is going. Because like I think I was speaking about it the other day. I mean, like eventually, if someone's like integrating like AI and blockchain, that the actual AI is going to figure out whether or not, if that consensus mechanism is really necessary, and just move it to a DAG. Like how you were speaking about Hedera. Hedera uses a DAG in a sense. So it just, again, it depends on the network itself. I mean, again, I'm gonna have to take a look at I'm gonna have to take a look at those bugs and then see where everything's going from all perspectives, just so I can really give you as much as I can.
I'll try and I could try and read what this guy said if it means anything. So he said 1.10.22 contains a regression that causes the try/state to go bad. Most probably it's one of the PRs we've merged towards the new storage model / online pruner, trying to find and fix the issue. I wonder if it's the new storage model that they've used. I wonder how where they're storing their information.
It could be the client itself. Yeah, it could be the client itself. Because when you talk about that, I'm thinking like, a lot of EVMs run off of what, SSDs.
You could, yeah, I guess. You think people? I guess that's what if they're using that in the storage facility. I mean, it depends on where, if they're hosting their own servers, or I guess they're renting space, right?
Yeah, I would have to. I'd have to see it. Like I have to see it, everything to give you an answer, because I don't want to say anything wrong. That's the only thing, because I feel like I'm gonna say something wrong.
Yeah. Lady K, go ahead.
Oh, it took me a minute to find, but I posted it at the top. So it's going to take a couple years for the data to compress lower and lower. And as it does that, it's going to reduce the fees.
That's like a long waiting game.
So wait, it's a compression problem?
Yeah, it's going to reduce energy consumption, he says, by 99.99%. And they have these phases. It'll like compress to like this amount, and then it'll compress to this amount, and it'll take like 2 years. But as they do that, and as they're able to compress the data smaller and smaller, it will reduce the fees.
Oh, so their motto is make the blocks larger over time to hold more data.
He
Interesting.
did say that, yeah.
There's also there's a component that's bad to that though. What about the people who like hosting the storage devices for the network? At the large cost.
Well, I mean, they'd be storing more for less. So they're going to have to hit, there's a term for that. Units of scale or scale. What's the term? When you get bigger, your costs, actually your per unit costs reduce.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have anything to do with the actual value of the token itself, right? Like if the blocks are just getting bigger, it just means more data has to be stored somewhere, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything for the price of the asset, right?
Yeah, no, you'd have to scale up into a decreasing margin. If that makes any sense. It's economies of scale is the term I was trying to think of. But nah, yeah, you'd have to, in order to keep up, you'd have to grow your infrastructure, number of machines you run or what have you. But you'd be getting paid less and less, per machine.
Yeah, I think the first thing he starts out by saying is this will allow them to scale.
I can see how that this is one of these things where I've said this a few times. Like when I stumbled into this community, it was a lot of technical folks and not financial folks. And they would come up with great ideas. This is an example of one. I can see from a technical perspective that this is definitely a good solution, right? Like that makes sense. Okay, you can compress it, you can do more data. Smart contracts are data heavy. This, obviously the more you can compress and do things, I mean, we did a lot of work on my other company to make the data payload light. But the economics, they're going to run into exactly what I just said. Like they didn't design the system right. From a technical point of view, it might be designed very well. From an economic point of view, they're going to put their own back in the corner. They're going to back themselves into a corner. Like how, and it's irritating because these are all smart people, but I don't understand how they don't see this stuff. Like if that's the setup, then they're gonna engage in a race to the bottom, which isn't fun. Like that's not great. Like you want to race for the top. Like you want bigger margins and you want to have pricing power and you want to be able to, like get bigger. I don't know. I just the race that doesn't sound whatever.
Taking a look at everything, maybe it's just the algorithm itself because Ethereum uses Kekkak as its algorithm, and Kekkak allows for like a sponge construction. So them trying to employ a compression function, maybe that's where the compression of data is coming from.
Well, but am I understanding this right? That basically, the more compression, the lower the fees. but the more compression, the more data, the more machines you need, but you're getting paid lower fees. I mean, there's got to be an equilibrium or a tipping point somewhere in there, from like the economics to the machine cost of machines.
Oh yeah. There is some correlation. It just takes a little bit to find it, because when you think about like a lot of this stuff, you know there are like fish algorithms in a sense, and when we talk about like fish algorithms, it's like Fibonacci sequence. This one everybody talks about, like the Fibonacci when they're looking at the chart. So there is that correlation. It's hard to find that sometimes. When you're diving from like technical to financial, it'll take me a little bit, but I'll see if I can figure something out. But in short, yes, Karma, I feel like you're in the right direction with what you were saying before.
See, this is, yeah, anyway, I'll just shut up. I just don't know how a bunch of smart people can make mistakes like this. Like, if you set yourself up, if the system design is not set up in a way that allows the system itself to, self-sustain and flourish, and it's best to have profit, right? Like, because you're gonna hit rough times at some point. So if you have some padding there, like I don't mean, and it's not like I don't think any of these people are stupid. I mean, I might not exactly like the project so much, but I don't think they're stupid. That's certainly not accurate. These are smart people. I don't know why they would design a system in a way that would go to diminishing returns. I mean, they designed the mining system in a way that it went to increasing returns to the miners. So the miners extracted, more and more value out of the network, the more people used the network. Like, that was, at least from an economics point of view, pretty smart. Anyway, I don't know. We'll see what happens. This blockchain world is it's going to be a situation for the next several years for sure, decade, and then probably even beyond that.
Kashta asked if we covered all the official Flare proposal.
It's so interesting you brought that. I literally just commented on, sent him a comment as you read it out loud. But yeah, he brings up a good point, because I posted it up top if anybody wants to take a look at it. The flares change to the protocol, the way the distribution would occur, is up top. If anybody wants to take a look and look at it, it's pretty detailed out. They even have the math of the way that the drop would occur and the percentage wises and everything you'll get. It's pretty good the way they did this. They outlined it.
Oh, geez. No, I got more stuff to read. Oh,
I did it while you were talking. It only is a 5-minute read, but it's good. It's just like we talked about before. It's how they changed the distribution to basically get rid of the exchanges being part of it, and so everybody who delegates and wraps their token will basically receive extra rewards that weren't going to be received upon if they weren't doing it this way. So it's awesome. It's great for the community, and it incentivizes people to participate in the network, which is obviously what you want when you have a network, right? The whole point is participating and being a good actor in it. So cool.
So it's not really anything new. It's just basically what has been discussed.
Yeah, and they in the dynamic they explain how the inflation is going to change from how Songbird was, and so it'll have a decreased inflation amount. Um, Longevity wise, good for the network, right? And so those who participate early on will have probably the largest reward, and keep participating in the network, right? Because you have a a larger percentage gain at the end of the year.
Yeah, that makes sense. See, this is okay to contrast this setup to the Ethereum setup. This puts, think about how your incentives are aligned. Like, Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner, he's always focused on incentives, almost oddly so. But I think this puts the incentives in line with participation in the network. And like, if you're going to build a network, you got to have participants, because otherwise, who the hell are you going to network together if there's no participants, right? I mean, if there's nobody if there's nobody on the network, like, it's like having a telephone and you're just the only guy with a phone. Like, what the hell are you going to do with that? It might be really cool tech, but yeah, what are you going to do with it? So I think it's a good incentive alignment. If the other thing we were talking about with Ethereum, that gives me concern, actually, because well, we don't have to go back to that topic, but we can if whatever. So they just basically made it official and put out this thing. I just skimmed it.
Yeah, the proposal is technically now official, right? And so that means that they've most likely posted the code also to the GitHub that would alter the changes inside of the protocol. And so it's official from their proposal standpoint. But we knew what they were going to propose for the most part. And I like how they outlined it with mathematical equations to show how it's going to benefit everybody. So that helps.
Well, I mean, I think the people that participate, should get more. Right? Like, that makes sense. Like, the guy who does more work gets paid more. It's just reasonable.
There's a cross-chain incentive pool as well. I like that. The fact that now they're going to provide developers with like scalable contracts, decentralized price feeds, secure state acquisition from other blockchains, and actually non-smart contract assets. That's where, I feel like they're really utilizing APIs to where, you're getting the maximal benefits from that information and data being relayed from blockchain to blockchain.
Well, it is saying if passed, so it needs to go up for a vote. And how's the voting work? Is that with the Flare Spark token, right? Or is that different with validators or something? Is there validators?
So the Flare team, it's just going to be as easy as logging onto their website, signing in with your wallet, and then being able to place your vote.
Okay.
So they're building a DApp for everybody to use for this instance of voting. And so they're going to wait, though. The vote won't proceed until at least 75% of the available of the first 15% are available to people to be able to be withdrawn and stuff like that off of exchanges. And then everybody's going to get the chance to vote on the proposal.
Okay.
Available or actually moved over to being on Ledger?
No, available. As long as we can say 75% of the initial 15% was available. If they don't move it off, that's on them. We can't, you can't force people to take the token off of the exchange.
Okay, that makes sense. Huh.
And there's a lot of those people will not only forfeit the right to vote, like in a democracy, but they also forfeit their entire 85% if they don't participate.
It's really stupid to not. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, outside of being intimidated by the tech, maybe, I don't know, or being afraid of screwing something up. I guess it's kind of the same thing. Why wouldn't you take it off of the exchange and put it in a self-custody and participate. I mean, if you're already this far down the rabbit hole that you're even getting Flare, why wouldn't you? But yeah, we'll see. I'm sure a lot of people won't. I mean, for those of us that do, I guess that's good news.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people on every social media platform, Twitter, Reddit, Discord. They've all said, a lot of people have said the same thing, right? They don't want to vote. They don't want to do anything. They just want to leave it on the exchange.
Well, the thing is, there's multiple things. I don't even want to go down that road. But the network design in itself is inflationary. So if you don't even delegate, and if your exchange doesn't have the capacity to let you enable you to delegate, then you're going to be losing value just from the inflation. So, I mean, delegating it's not even really like making money. It's like making up for the cost of the inflation. And if you just, like, let's say you just sit on 100 Flare for 100 years, it's not gonna, I don't think that would be a very reasonable idea. Like, you'd end up losing. I mean, I guess the token could go up in value, and maybe that would compensate or like outweigh the cost of the inflation. Am I wrong there, Death? Or, I mean, that's my understanding.
Yeah, I mean, because this is the aspect of it being like a tokenized asset that has the ability to still go up in value to other people. But the pretense is you figure if people are buying a lot of aspects, if people are receiving the token for free, there'll be a lot of sell pressure, and so in that sense, there's no guarantee that the asset price goes up, and so yeah, there's a possibility that there's a deflationary metric that brings price down, and so yeah.
But I mean, what about the other part where, like, you're incentivized to, because of the cost, because the system design, it has an inflationary aspect, right? But if you collect that inflation, then it doesn't reduce your total value. Assume your balance sheet is based in FLR. Right? I think that's how that works. Because if you delegate, I mean, you're not taking risk. I mean, I guess you're taking a risk on whether or not the person you delegate to gets into actually earns rewards. But outside of that, you're not really taking a risk. But when the new Flare gets issued to the FTSOs,
if it was more in the sense of like a stable coin, like, because the price, that it's not going to fluctuate, but yeah, sure, if you still hold it 100 Flare and it goes up from 0 cents to $100 each, right? Like, yeah, you mean, sure, but you could have had way more than that. In that sense, if that was going to happen, you could have had way more than that in tokens, and so your value would have been way more, in the sense, if that happens from not delegating and participating, right? Like, I guess in the sense of like, if the
that again? Sorry, that didn't click.
So like, if the asset price was to go up, right? If you whether regardless if you had 100 of them, or and you didn't delegate, right, and you just wait for the price to go up, but if you just delegated and wait for the price to go up, then you'd have a much larger accumulation of value. And so
Yeah.
there's still that, sure, there's always that chance that whatever you hold, the price just goes up, and then you could eventually sell it because that's the market. But you could also have had a much larger accumulation. If that's still going to happen, that's still going to happen. So,
well, I mean, I've got to be right on the part, like, if you don't delegate, you're just losing. I mean, how do I say? you're definitely losing an opportunity cost to get the delegation rewards. So that is for sure.
Yeah, in that sense, like you're if the rat race was to get as much accumulation of value as you could, or you're losing it compared to everybody else because you're not accumulating the asset at all.
Hey everyone.
What's up, Steak?
Oh, plenty. But I don't want to interrupt the topic of discussion.
No, you're good. I'm just trying to wrap my head around how the inflationary aspects of the Flare network work. Like, I think if I'm understanding the like system design right, that there's all the incentive in the world to participate in delegating and this kind of thing, because if you don't, there's an inflationary cost to not participating. So, like, if you were somebody that was like, "Oh, I'm just going to sit and hold my flare for 10 years,"
right,
you actually would lose out.
I really would like to have a conversation about a different topic, if that's okay. In a bit.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, go ahead, Steak.
I believe we have some people here in real estate, right? I think Lady K is a real estate broker.
Yeah, I've done a lot of thinking about real estate. Yeah.
So I got a question, and then I'll explain why, and see what you guys make of it. Is there such thing in the U.S. as customized mortgages?
Sort of.
Right.
They're sort of. In what customized in what way? Like on what term? Like what term
Well,
are you trying to customize?
in the essence that normally you'd have like your credit score and your salary, and they make up like the biggest part of how much money your mortgage can be, I guess, if I explain it in layman's terms.
Yeah.
And when you have like a customization type of mortgage, at least here in the Netherlands, you were able to get a specific look by the bank at your personal individual situation, maybe of how you managed your wealth, and what your credit score is. And they go in depth with where you have, where you work, who your employer is, what type of contract you have, stuff like that. And based on that, they can either give or deny a customized mortgage, which can be higher than average, so to speak. And especially if you come out of a divorce like I have right now, then normally it would be very difficult to buy a house individually. So then they usually solve this problem with a customized mortgage. Do they do
Well,
the same thing in the US as well?
sort of. It's called hard money, if you want to look that term up.
All right.
Yeah, they charge higher. Um, they might do a little, they'll probably do a little more customized underwriting. They might have, sometimes it depends on how the business is organized. It might even be their own money. Sometimes, most of the time it's not, but
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the type of thing I was looking at. So here's the thing. Here's the kicker for me, and I've had a really shitty day. But my mortgage is probably gonna fail through the bank. I'm gonna have an ultimatum tomorrow, but it doesn't look good. And basically, what it means with the rising interest rates, there was already one bank, and now the last bank as well, that are stopping mortgages with hard money, or with customization models in their mortgage, if I freely translate from Dutch to English. So what that means for me, and I'll put this in the situation, which I think is incredibly interesting. It's shitty for me as an individual, but from an economical perspective, I think it's incredibly interesting, is that I'm bringing 75,000 euros to the table, liquidity, and I make about 1.5 times average salary, maybe 2 times average salary, with a permanent contract with a department in government somewhere. So I'd say my employer is pretty solid. No debts, no credit problems whatsoever. And I actually get denied a mortgage, probably because they want to deny everyone to get a hard money mortgage. And my financial advisor and my real estate broker are kind of in a panic mode, because apparently the entire housing market now in the Netherlands is completely drying up. This happened this afternoon, late afternoon. I'm hearing it tomorrow morning for a definitive answer whether it's still possible for me to go through or not. For me personally, that would mean I still keep custody. Otherwise, I'll have a bigger problem with that. But from an individual point, it's shit. But from an economical point of view, it basically means that real estate is going to go down.
Yeah, it's reasonable. I mean, I'm sorry about the personal. Trust me, it's not fun. I've been there, done that. But if I mean, think about it, man. The all the central banks
That might
around
actually be a very good tattoo at some point in my life. It's not fun.
Well, no, I mean, it's really, it's not going to be fun for a little while. I
No,
mean,
for sure.
every central bank in the world has been pumping liquidity into the system for over a decade. Now it's time to mop. That's like taking buckets of water and dumping it all over the floor. Eventually, you got to mop it up, right? So
Oh, sure.
there's to mop it up, and in markets, there's some other people I talk to that are like more on the investment, like global investment. Like these people move lots of money, and it's like, this was a few months back, but it was like, where do you hide? Like, where do you take your value? Forget calling it money. Where do you take your value to protect your value? And
Right.
the scenario, the best answer that I could come up with anyway was go into real estate in an unleveraged market. Now, the US and Europe are highly leveraged real estate markets. So the interest rate sensitivity to the industry is high because they're highly leveraged. So, and this kind of thing you're talking about is a different aspect of the same problem, because if the banks start pulling back liquidity, then the way, one of the ways that materializes is they don't fund mortgages. It doesn't mean the
Here's the
mortgage.
thing. Here's the thing. I'm bringing 75,000 of my own money. Probably gonna buy a house around 300,000. So like a
They're not.
quarter of that.
No, they're not thinking about it from a individual mortgage point of view. They're thinking about it from a portfolio perspective. So they might, like insurance companies do this, and they're looking at their like where they have risk exposures, and maybe they get geographically too concentrated. So all of a sudden they'll change their underwriting standards, and they won't write any more policies in that area. They want to write policies in other areas because in case something happens, at least it didn't happen to all of their policies.
Yeah, they want to diversify it. I get that.
Yeah,
I get that, but it apparently this is over the entire the Netherlands, and it also has to do with the ECB rising interest rates. So it could also be something European.
oh, I'm sure it's tied together. That's got to be tied together.
Which I think is very interesting, because many people expect like some sort of economic boom or something like that, but it looks more like it's a concentrated, how do you say it, a controlled bankruptcy. Like every time the interest rates goes up and the Chinese housing market is at the point of capitulating, and then you have in almost a complete harmony, you have the oil prices going down. It's like a controlled landing, crash landing.
I don't know. I know that the central banks have to be talking to each other, and
Obviously.
The central bankers are the ones there at the top of the heap. I mean, you think the guy in the White House has got some power?
No. I know.
Like and I don't care
Probably
what.
the Swiss central bank's got a big finger in it.
Oh yeah, I mean, if they're pulling liquidity out of the system, it's gonna interest rates rise. It's gonna. There's all. I mean, it's mechanical almost. Interest rates rise, underwriting standards. It's a cascade of
Yeah,
things.
It's like an accordion.
Sort of. That's sort of. Yeah.
Oh well. Anyways, I was wondering if those hard money mortgages in the U.S. are gonna go away for a few weeks in a few weeks' times as well. That would
No,
be interesting to watch.
They're usually run privately. I know a guy that does that. Actually, I know two guys that do that. But the thing is, they want such high interest rates that, I mean, you really got to have one hell of a deal in order to justify the expense. Like if you run the math, like they want like triple market rates.
Yeah, that's insane.
So yeah, it's not a
Most of the hard money loan people and companies I know, they're generally doing it for investment purposes. They don't generally do like owner occupier either.
All right.
Yeah, it's usually, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's usually like more considered for like short-term financing. So you're expected to, like, say it's a rehab project.
Yeah, right. It's not a mortgage for 10, 20, or 30 years.
Right.
Yeah. And because why would you want to pay the extra interest? I mean, if it's a crap building and you got to get in there and like rehab it, then you refinance and you pay off the hard money person and you use the cheaper money.
Yeah, I get that.
I mean, there are some outliers that service their own loans. So, I don't know if you have that in your country, but if there's a bank that services their own loans, they'd have more capability to provide loans.
Yeah, there's probably just one bank left that does that, and that's the one I'm negotiating with. And well, they want more money. They want to negotiate, but they want more money. And basically, I'm already at the end of what I can spend. So it's going to be interesting to see if I can slip through or not. But the problem for me individually is that in order to have custody over my son, I need to live in the neighborhood, and I won't be able to live in the neighborhood if I can't fix this. So that's another shitty thing to deal with. But I'm gonna look into it.
That's what I saw that last crash we had here in the States. I mean, it didn't matter people's position, income, credit. I mean, the restrictions were so stringent. There just wasn't access to funds. And it wasn't until they lifted those that the market turned around. And you're right. If that's where it's at right now, that market's going to crash because there aren't going to be buyers to buy.
Now, here's the thing: the market wasn't there yet, but it happened like this afternoon. like at
Yep.
the end of the day. That's when they gave the news, like at 5 o'clock before the office closed. They gave the news like that, and he said, "Yeah, we want to talk tomorrow, first thing in the morning." So that's like, um, how do you say that? Hanging by a thread, I guess, would be the correct way to say that. So maybe I can fix something tomorrow, but I figure that I'm probably one of the last, if not, I'm not able to buy a house for a very, very long time. So if
Yep.
that's happening now here in the Netherlands, at least in Europe, because it's I think it's a domino effect globally. So I was just wondering if it's happening somewhere else as well.
It's
Oh,
happening
it's
globally, Steak. I think from a perspective of this market right now, capital is running dry, starting to run dry, and you'll see a flood of dry capital globally over the next couple months.
No, but if
My
I
question to
know.
you is, are they trying to get your LTVs low enough? Is there a ratio that they're comfortable with regards to how would they proceed? Are they trying to hit a 60% loan to value or what?
I'm not even aware of that. What's an LTV?
Loan to value ratios. So if you have 20% down, you're at 80 LTV, right? Are they trying to bring you to a level around 60? Is that why they're asking for more money?
Could be. I don't know. I
That's the first
honestly,
thing. That's the first thing you need to ask, because you may be able to squeeze in based on a discussion with the underwriter that underwrote the loan accordingly. I only tell you this because when I worked in the mortgage industry and I used to buy these assets personally for my book, I'd look at a compensating factor. If you've got, at least in the U.S., if you've got 2 to 3 years of work, solid work, which sound like you do, it becomes a loan to value ratio game and an interest rate game, right? So they'll raise their interest rate on you enough, but also make sure that they're covered on the back end on that loan to value in case the market
yeah.
crash.
Here's the funny ironic thing. I make about 1.5, 2 times the average salary, and I work on a permanent contract with a government branch. So if people like me, I'm like at the top end of middle class in regards to credit score. The only problem I have is that I'm buying it individually instead of being a couple because I'm divorced.
Yeah.
But I'm 37. I bring about 100,000 in liquidity in cash, but I can't spend
Okay.
it all. Like,
Well, what's
but here's the
debt to
here,
income ratio? Just
here's
out of curiosity, because I'll tell you exactly how you play this with your current lender. What's your
what you,
DTI? Do you know?
no, I don't, because I'm not really familiar with the terms in English. But
It's
the
basically the ratio of your debts to your income, because you can have a significant amount of income, but if you have outstanding debts that eat up
I don't
that
I don't
income.
have I don't have any debts.
Oh wow! And they're turning you down
Yes,
because of just a single factor. Have a
yes.
chat with the underwriter. Tell your mortgage broker or whoever you're dealing with what's the underlying pending issues that got the loan rejected. Because there might be some ways for you to look at the debt to income ratio where the lender may be able to look at it. Lady K is right. Institutions that have servicing rights to this may be a better chance than institutions that sell your mortgage to other institutions. So have a look at that right away and see if you can work with them
This
on
is
that.
basically the last bank possible that does this. So I will. But
the
the fact is, if I'm not able to get this fixed, then I'm positively sure. I know that I'm in the 1 to 2% bracket of my age group with everything I have. And if I'm not possible to get a mortgage right now, um, in the Netherlands, which is kind of a frugal country as well financially, and I even work ironically for a government branch, so they don't deem that as credit worthy enough, which is hilarious to me. Then that basically means that there is more behind it, behind the scenes, and apparently a lot of houses are no longer being sold here anymore. Like in the last week, that's what I heard this afternoon because I've been calling some people. So it's like real life shit is like go hitting me now so hard that I think, yeah, there is definitely a depression coming.
Yeah, I mean that sucks for you, man. But the way I would buy this, if I was back in the market, and the way I would buy your loan accordingly would be under 50, just to avoid risk. You're pretty solid, so I might go up to 60 loan to value on you. But I'd have to see your DTIs just to understand where you're at. If you got solid work history, I wouldn't be too concerned. I'll probably charge you, a couple basis points on the rate on the front end and a transaction fee. I don't know how you guys do it over in there, but it's doable from my perspective, especially since it just started, because there is still money in there, right? You just got to get at it. If you can't get at it, yeah, maybe it's completely dried out. But if you told me it just announced today, there's just that hesitation that they're going to reject everybody and then refilter out and reassess those loans. So I would ask right away, what was the main issues? Because it doesn't sound like you have any real underwriting issues. Probably the loan to value is the main factor they're factoring in.
Well,
yeah, I guess,
point,
but if how do I get the loan to value? How do I get them to drop their loan to value?
well, that's
No,
what I was about to say. What to his point is if that is in fact the issue, then you got to figure that out, and they're probably not going to tell you because they're probably not going to know because they're just salespeople.
Well, before I had 70,000 liquidity, and now they want more. 75 wasn't enough, so now they want to talk more tomorrow, and I'm already at my high end. I probably can't really squeeze in a lot more.
So
can you borrow the money? Can you borrow the rest of what they want?
I don't know what they want. I'm going to hear that tomorrow, but maybe I'm capable of doing that.
Go to the seller. Do you guys have? I'm sure you do. You guys have owner financing over there?
Owner financing?
Yeah, like when the seller actually, like, say, holds, like the guy on the other side of my block, he just sold his house, actually to a realtor, and or one of his houses. He's got a couple over there, but yeah, he held paper. He's holding a couple $100,000 in a mortgage that he financed. Right, so she paid.
That's not really a thing here.
Yeah, if I were you, Steak, I'd just go listen to them tomorrow. Prepare for a short-term personal loan. Even if you get an appointment, if you can squeeze in a meeting to a bank to get some sort of personal loan ready, at least an application to go through. Because if they've already pre-approved you with your loan and the hiccup comes in from the underwriting side, then you can probably take out that personal loan and it still wouldn't show on their end anyway, from a reporting perspective. So you may be able to pull it off based on that. If you get the loan to value ratio low enough that they're comfortable with, don't let them raise the rates on you, because that's really what's most important. But if you obviously have to feel out what they're
Well, in my humble opinion, and this sounds, maybe from a financial point of view, this sounds really like stupid advice, but I honestly don't really mind it if the rates get a little bit higher. The only thing I'm really concerned about is getting a roof over my head and getting custody, and
Yeah.
I'll fix shit down the line, and I'll have more money coming in. So I don't mind about that. It can cost a bit.
But
I don't care.
The only reason why I say that is the personal loan will probably kill you on the rate right now, especially with cost of funds going up. That's
Probably,
why
yeah.
I said, yeah, the personal at least will offset that, right? If they're charging another 100 basis points on the mortgage front end, it'll offset that a little bit.
Yeah.
Good luck, man.
Thanks, man. I'm glad that you could. I think you're right about the underlying mechanics of it all, about
No,
the
I'm right,
LTV
because
ratio.
I'm the guy that used to buy this stuff off desperate people like you. If you guys wanted money, I'm the guy that actually looked at thousands of these and negotiated it down. So I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. I got a different expertise, so thanks for clearing that up. Hopefully it's helpful tomorrow. Fingers crossed. And if not, then life just goes a different direction, I guess.
I wish you best of luck, at least stakes. I know things
Thanks, man.
with property and housing can be hard when it is hard. So best of wishes, stakes. Hope everything will be fine.
Sometimes it's hard, but try to be optimistic.
Hey, I'm still not dead yet, so that's good. And I've got a new idea for a tattoo thanks to you.
Don't get a tattoo because of me. But yeah, no, be optimistic. I mean, things, well, not always, but things generally work out well. Maybe not exactly how you anticipated, but generally speaking.
Generally speaking, yeah. But this stuff is custody and then housing and stuff like that is obviously close to heart. So I try to be optimistic, but sometimes, well, you get shitty days, right? So, anyways, we'll see tomorrow. No use in thinking about what ifs or whatever. But um, yeah, I'm really curious about what the underlying issues are and if I can deal with it. But I'll let you know.
I
Thanks,
think
all.
what Ghost
Or you
was.
know if the housing bubble will explode anyway, and you can just buy a house for half the price.
Well, that was another point I was going to make, but I think what Ghost, because if the value comes down, then all of a sudden the loan to value ratio goes up, or I guess down. So your 75 grand is no longer, say, 20%, now it's 40%, right? So that can happen too. Lower the sales price.
That's true, but one of the things that they will do is they rise interest rates. They're now at like they used to be at like 1.9. They're now like at 3.85, 4.3, and they're gonna go to 8 to 9% again.
Yeah,
And
it's going up. It's going up. That's one of the things they're scared about, and they're reasonable to be scared about that. But that's the way it's going.
yeah, you
And
got an entire
that's
generation, and that's a sorry.
well, I'm saying that's a headwind, right? Because every time the interest rate goes up, your monthly mortgage payment goes up. Your Ghost, what's it called? The debt to what's the
debt to income ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then that impacts that, and I mean, so there's like all these different things, and it's all interrelated.
Yeah, but I also think that if this is happening in the housing market, like actually fairly recent, like this afternoon here in Europe, then I'm really interested to see if other dominoes are gonna topple over as well. Because if the real estate market is coming to a very screeching halt, then many real estate investors will be underwater.
Well, yeah. I mean, the Fed has already had in 2 press releases this year that they were going to reduce their mortgage-backed securities. So I have no doubt the restrictions are going to start rolling in. I'm just waiting for that.
You're waiting for that. Okay. That's yeah, I guess if it's all going down to a very low price, that's great to buy, right?
Yeah, and just seeing it coming, like I just know it's coming, you know.
Yeah,
but
but
wait,
here's the thing. If we get another real estate bubble like in 2008, when we had like 20 fake dollars for one real dollar, and with the way that the global economy is set up right now, we get like a 5 to 6 fold of that, um, which means that 2008 was a picnic compared to what's coming.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, this all goes back to the debt markets at the end of the day. And Kay was talking about the front end and stake yourself too. Like the first indicators, right? With crypto not being an indicator. Like if the real estate market is tightening right now because of the interest rates and the ability to loan money, the real problem then comes if we start having, and this is globally, if we start having massive layoffs, because then
Of course you get that. Of course you get that.
Yeah, ton of trickling effects, and then I mean, obviously, central banks are already restricting money flow, and yeah, it could get bad. You're right.
Non-diversified economies with a very high unemployment right now, above 8%, they'll have a very big problem. Economies with a very low unemployment right now will have it a little bit easier, like Northern Western Europe has it easier than Southern Europe because of this. Because if some companies topple down, the ones that do have a good business that actually need more personnel to grow, they'll actually be glad and able to hire those people immediately. So the unemployment actually stays a bit lower for a longer time. So for a few countries on a national level, that's not per se going to be a bad thing, but that's just a small piece of the puzzle because every country worldwide is just so connected through trade with one another that if prices just go up massively, or if things aren't in stock anymore, and everything goes to a halt again because people are afraid to spend money, so they keep everything in their bank account, then it's just gonna get you get a topple effect on one another. You get that bullwhip effect, but then like in the entire economy. And I think we're gonna see it pretty soon. I already figured September is going to be a difficult month, but I don't really see a lot of positive. I want to stay positive, but I don't really see a lot of bullish news for October and onwards. What about you guys?
Well, my grandmother used to say, "This too shall pass." So whether it passes today, tomorrow, next week, next year,
So
um,
that's where you got your dry humor from, right?
uh, I don't know, but I mean, she had another saying, "Into each life, a little rain will fall."
Oh
Like,
yeah,
yeah, it happens. It's just the way it is.
yeah.
Hey, Steak, real quick. So wait, the court is telling you that you have to live in, from what I gathered and listening to what you're saying, they're saying that you have to live in a certain neighborhood. I'm guessing because the mom, your ex, and your child is already going to school there, or something to that effect. And so does the court specifically say that you have to buy a house, or can you rent, and that would meet the satisfactory requirements for occupancy in that area? And are there even places to rent? Because I can relate, man. It's a tough situation you're in.
No, there isn't a court. I actually sold the house we're living in right now to her because she makes less money than me and she can actually buy me out. Otherwise, that wouldn't be a problem. So that would also mean that my kid can stay to the same school and have the same same routine in life. So nothing really changes a lot for him. It's a very last resort for me to go back on that. I don't really want to do that. And to go back to your other question about loaning or buying, loaning is an option as well, but there aren't any loanable housing in the neighborhood. So this is very much a last resort kind of thing. Um, so yeah, uh, if I want to have custody, like half custody, like 1 week with him, with her, 1 week with me, that's basically what it would look like. Then I would have to live close by the school in order to provide in that manner. And if I can't buy a house, I won't live nearby enough, which which really sucks. But yeah, I don't really want to think about that yet.
Yeah, I get it, man. And yeah, I guess, I mean, going back to Karma and K and Ghost Points, like at least in the States, the banks have to meet their certain risk requirements, and you understand that. That's why they look at debt to income ratio, loan to value, all that stuff. And the fact that you were saying that they were still, I mean, your interest rates in the Netherlands are lower than ours are right now, which is, they've been going up either way. The ECB kind of failed and dragged its feet on raising interest rates, and it's kind of crushing. I think it's going to have a sharper effect on Europe than it will, in the States, and on the front end at least. But at the end of the day, the cool thing about real estate is it's really, you can be really creative in real estate. And what I wanted to say is, like, if a bank, right? So we have smaller banks. Kristen was, and one of you guys were alluding to this, right? We have like credit unions or other types of financial institutions that are not like a Bank of America or, any of the large purchasers of these mortgages on the secondary market, right? So you can usually get a little more creative. And then if those don't work, yes, you do have hard money. But I mean, Karma brought a great point. Here we have something, seller financing, where basically you could just go to the person that you want to buy the house and say, look, I'll give you $100,000 right now. You still carry the note, but I will pay you this amount of money at this interest rate for this amount of years. And you're
Or even
essentially
just a part of the note, right? Like let the loan to value ratio get down to, like Ghost was saying, 50-60%. You let the owner carry, 20%, and you pay him 30% cash. And
there's a lot of ways to peel that onion, and it really comes back to like your ability to be creative, potentially. And this is, I'm saying this from a American perspective, because I know that every country has their own restrictions and what's possible. But the nicest thing is that this asset class of real estate has a lot more flexibility than many others. So something to think about. Or if
you can be creative. There's so many different ways to slice and dice a deal. And I was also going to say, I don't know if you know what a lease option is, but that could be a pun intended, an option as well. If the seller is willing. I mean, it sounds like to me you have an extenuating circumstance. Like when I sold my rental house, the guy, he was buying it for his son who's had basically knocked up some lady, and so and I was like, okay, man, like I'll do a deal. Like it's not exactly my preferred terms, but I get it, right? Like, so yeah, sure, fine. And it all worked out well. I mean, it's not like I lost anything. But yeah, I mean, you just got to talk to people. The trouble is,
that's the thing. That's the thing. I just got to talk to people. And many people were on the holidays and they just came back yesterday. So, including my financial advisor. So, I'm having a talk with him tomorrow morning, first thing in the morning, on how to tackle this thing. And I want to know all the ins and outs as well because he's been brokering the deal for me so far. And then we'll see what happens. The other possible option as well is that I'm gonna actually up my liquidity by loaning from my employee, which is actually the government, which is so fucking ironic. But maybe maybe they can loan me against a very low interest rate. I don't know. That's going to be something.
That could be another good option. I mean, I think Ghost is on the right track.
Yeah, he is.
Tightening the underwriting standards, and they're going to want to see lower loan to value ratios. I think he's really on the right track.
Yeah, I think so too. And we'll see if I can meet it. I don't know. I don't know what they want, so I'm gonna know that tomorrow morning, and then we'll see. I don't want to think too far ahead, but I'm gonna need a plan B if things fail. But the fact that they still want to negotiate and the fact that they still want to talk, that means something to me because they could have just said no.
Yeah, it's clear that they're trying to make the deal happen, which is good.
When I heard Ghost talk, he reminded me of like how Freddie Mac is in a sense, that risk management.
Yeah, it's been about 20 years since I've been on that end of the business, but yeah, I mean, when I looked at it accordingly, I was actually on the negotiate conduit desk, which is the NCA desk, which is subprime. So I'd take a look at these loans, and people institutions would come to me to see where we can, secure financing. And some of the things that I look at is pretty much how I would sell it to the street, right? Because in the end, we bought these and then repackaged it into 1,000 other mortgages. So if your rates were high, overall the mean or the average of those rates sort of washed out within those mortgages. The same with the DTIs. Those can be excusable and repackaged accordingly. I haven't looked at repackaging now Amsterdam does it, but if they're anywhere close to Europe, because I had a fellow trader back then that moved to Amsterdam actually and started the division there for GMAC. So it's very similar, I think, as how they sort of structure the secondary mortgage market, and it's very much Freddie Mac sort of. You're right, because at the end of the day, a lot of that stuff was bought by institutions and the Freddie Macs of the world.
Just want to say thank you so much for the speakers and everybody who came up to speak so far today. I thank you, Ghost, for helping out Steak in this situation. It was pretty cool to listen to everything. Sorry the situation you're in, though, Steak, but I think you'll be all right. You got some good advice. But
Much appreciated.
If anybody in the audience, though, wants to come up, has any last-minute questions, has a topic they'd like to bring up or talk about, I think we're going to close up the space in 5 minutes or so. So please feel free to come up and hit the request to come speak.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to go before I say anything, please do. I finally found the answer to the that whole Ethereum issue.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, yeah? What is it?
So I think it's just the logical gates. Like, for instance, like and, or, XOR, not, and NAND, NOR, and XNOR. So all that is how, binary is,
Yeah.
converted, like the zeros and ones. So it's like the flip of that switch. And, these logic gates are based on like Boolean algebra. So like at any given moment, every terminal is in one of two binary conditions, true or false. And false represents 0 and true represents 1. So maybe the issue with these terminals are it's like, how these commands are being, executed, maybe there's conflict on, what the binary values are.
Well, then that should be a relatively easy fix, I would think. I mean, maybe not easy, but definitely fixable. I mean,
Yeah.
That's code, right?
So when will this Ethereum fork war start, or has it already started?
I'd say the war already started between the proof of work and proof of stake. A lot of talk about people.
Like Bitfinex, the exchange, today launched Ethereum chain split tokens, CSTs. And those CSTs will enable users to trade on the potential fork event in the Ethereum consensus protocol that may result in like Ethereum proof of work and Ethereum proof of stake tokens. And they're actually tradable.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You got kidding me. So, wait a second.
Yeah.
So did you just say that some exchange is making a market and providing liquidity in an imaginary token for a network that may never exist?
It's
Bitfinex.
Yeah, it's Tether.
And it's called chain split tokens, CSTs. And they will enable the users to trade on the potential fork event.
I mean, I can understand, like buying Flare on
Get your popcorn, man. This is going to be fun.
And it's an IOU, and when the network comes live, it'll be issued. But like, there's clearly a team, and this is a situation that's real. Okay. Anyway,
I'm gonna get so many tattoos, man. Anyway,
I'll tell you. Okay, here's a story to end the chat. So, I was over in Australia, and I was staying at this hostel, and there was this Irish girl, and I couldn't understand. Her accent was so thick. Every time she said something, I had to ask her to repeat herself 2 or 3 times. And but she wanted to go surfing, so I took her out surfing, and I randomly ran into my cousin over there. How the hell? But yeah, I mean, he went on a whole road trip with us. Anyway, And so the girl, I was like, look, there's just one rule, right? Like, don't let the board get between you and the wave. Like, if you're going to fall off the backside, right?
Right.
Let the board go toward the beach. So she did the exact opposite and somehow or another fell off the front of the board. And she popped up and I heard it. Like the board like went dong, and it hit her dead square in the jaw, like right in the mouth. And I'm like, dude,
Oh.
oh yeah, I'm thinking like she could have just lost a tooth or like, you know. And I looked at my cousin and, you know, he's looking at me and because we were still out in the water. And I was like, well, I guess that's the end of that. Like she's not. And so when she got, you know, when the wave went by, we were like, hey, like, you okay? And the most thickest Irish accent you can imagine, she goes, oi, I'm grand. And she paddled back out and kept surfing. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, dude, like, I'm sorry, but if I got hit in the face like that, like, she wasn't bleeding somehow. I don't know how that was possible.
Yeah,
She
you
should have been bleeding.
usually you need a few seconds.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
that's life, right? Sometimes it hits you in the face.
yep. But yeah, anyway, I guess we'll wrap things up here.
Thanks for sharing, man. Thanks for the help, everyone.
None of this is financial advice, stake or anything. Like, just trying to help maybe folks understand how the systems work. And none of the speakers represent ledgerscale or anything. But we definitely appreciate everybody joining and your participation, the questions, the support, and we have some crypto addresses up there if you want to donate and help us out. I'm going to get the bank account going hopefully this week. And other than that, we'll be back tomorrow.
Excellent. That, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thanks.